Good morning, good afternoon to everybody that's joining us from all over the country. We are so excited to have you all here and participate. We have over a dozen state broadcast association members from the non-com member station world joining us, and we are so excited to have you join us for this 60-minute discussion. We've got a discussion, we've got a great panel lined up for today. And again, we are just excited to have you all here. For all of you joining us on the 10-Minute Trainer Network for the first time, this is something that we do regularly, right? We are listening to what is going on out there in the community and how we can help. So today, we are talking about unlocking the power of your underwriting message. Before I get into introducing today's hosts, I want to let you know that this is a two-way discussion. Right. So let's test that out, right? Two ways of going about that. If you're logged into our online OTT platform, 10-Minute Trainer Network, you can chat, right? You can use the chat forum. Let us know where you're joining us from, who's there with you. If you would prefer to hide your name, which we all get that, send us a text. This is a confidential text line, 913-303-7428. This is also how you're going to send us any questions or comments throughout the session. So first and foremost, let us know where you're joining from, and we'll be sure to chime in throughout. So, hey, let's go ahead and jump right into it. Today's host, Speed Marriott, he is the co-founder of P1 Learning and the 10-Minute Trainer Network, and Derron Steenbergen, you are the founder of the Swagger Institute and co-founder of the 10-Minute Trainer Network. Gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us this morning, this afternoon, that awkward 11 a.m. time frame here, Central Time. So thanks for joining us, gang.
Hey, we appreciate it. And this is something we've been talking about for quite a while now. My starting in the career was at a college campus radio station. We were an NPR affiliate. I have strong ties to it. I've worked on both sides, but this is something that we've been wanting to do for a while, and we're finally here, Derron.
Yeah, Speed. It's a really good topic. We're pleased to bring it to you. And Speed, a lot of times people say, "So how'd you get the topic?" So how did we end up here today? So let me kind of set the stage. We had stations across the country and associations that were asking us, "Hey, can you help?" So that's what led us to where we are today. You all know, everybody on this call recognizes that the recent funding cuts to the Corporation for Public Broadcasting have put a lot of added pressure on non-commercial stations. Certainly PBS, NPR, your affiliates. For many, those cuts represent about a 10% reduction in your annual budget. That's a big freaking deal. We understand that. Now, while these reductions don't directly affect local independent non-commercial stations, faith-based stations, they do raise an important question. And this started, in full disclosure, this started out focused on just public media. This was going to be PBS, this was going to be NPR. And the deeper we got into this, the more we realized that this is a need across all of those entities that we mentioned earlier. So what can and can't we exactly say in an underwriting message? So that's what we're going to dig into today. And I'm so juiced about this panel. But it's important that we note this right out of the gate. This is not a political conversation. Okay, we're not doing it. We're not going there. We're not here to debate the funding cuts or compare commercial and non-commercial broadcasters. We're not going to turn this political. It's a creative discussion. Today's discussion is all about how we can deliver powerful, compliant, hear what I said there? Powerful, compliant, strategic branding messages that connect with your audience. It's about repositioning underwriting from a simple financial support to a brand alignment opportunity that still complies with FCC guidelines while delivering measurable value to your sponsors. I think if we can, at the end of this time today, if we can deliver that, we're all going to leave here feeling good about what we've done. Speed, I love this panel. I'm excited for everybody to hear from them and meet from them. Why don't you do the introductions?
Absolutely. This is, we've got a 5-member panel that kind of represents a variety of different viewpoints. And this is the first time they've met each other. They have not been exposed to the questions yet as well. So we're gonna jump in this together. I want to start off by introducing Greg Petrowich. He is 25 years in the public media sector. He is the president, the CEO of WFYI NPR Radio, WFYI PBS Television, serving the Indianapolis marketplace. And what's interesting is one of the things that Derron and Brian and I do whenever we tackle a new topic particularly one that's a little bit out of our norm, is we usually reach out to our different broadcast associations. Mark Gordon was one of those folks for years. Dave Arlen was somebody we reached out to this go around. Dave is the executive director of Indiana Broadcasters Association. And when we posed this, Dave said, look, he's on the board for WFYI, and he says, you've got to have Greg on this call. He just gets it. So, Greg, thank you. Welcome for coming. And maybe you could go ahead and turn your camera on and join us. Next up, we've got Gina Holt. Gina is a senior corporate relations manager at Kansas City's PBS affiliate, KCBT. She also works with KTBG 90.9, The Bridge. I'll tell you a little bit more about them in a second. For nearly a decade, she has led the strategic partnerships that align local and regional brands with the Kansas City trusted public media platforms. Her leadership is helped strengthen public broadcasts in the minds and really become a connection point with local business and the local community as well. She serves on both sides of this broadcast or on radio and on television. So, Gina, if you can join us, glad to have you here. And next up, we have Jon Hart. Jon was having some camera issues, so he may not be joining us, at least from a picture perspective. Still nothing. But Jon began his radio at a non-commercial college radio station. As a matter of fact, the same one I started at years ago, before transitioning his career into Kansas City commercial broadcast radio. He's worked on air, in production, on promotions, sales genre. He's also been all the way around the block when it comes to different formats he's worked with, from AOR, classic rock, news talk, sports talk, top 40 country, a man of many formats and allegiances, as you could tell as well. And 25 years ago, though, he moved back to his roots and took a non-commercial NPR jazz hybrid, pretty sleepy, and he totally woke it up. 90.9 The Bridge is an album alternative radio station that has moved from Warrensburg, Missouri, a small college town, to the Kansas City Metro, works with KCBT. And Gina describes Jon as their station's underwriting wordsmith and the FCC whisperer. So I kind of like that. The next up is James Pickens, VP of Corporate Support for Texas Public Radio. TPR serves the San Antonio marketplace and the surrounding area. James' background is also both sides of the fence, public and commercial. James was a commercial broadcast and radio and television, including Spanish media and public media. Rounding our team out is Jackie McAleer. Jackie and I've worked together as well in years past, back in her secular broadcast days. Today, she is the operations manager for Christian Music Broadcasters, CMB. She oversees operational execution and member services for the organization. She has over 2 decades of experience in sales management, leadership, broadcasting, media, and her background includes network sales and promotions for major Christian radio networks. And she's committed to personal development, family, and faith-based impact for her professional and community roles as well. So welcome all of you. We appreciate it. We got one more person we want to introduce here, and that is that's going to be up to Derron. Kick her off.
Reed, thank you. Man, what a great panel. Before I introduce our Mark, who we know where we're going there, Brian, do you mind putting the slide up one more time so that we can get that number, and so everybody that may have joined us just a little bit late knows how to get your questions in? Okay, so you can hit us on the chat, or you can text us directly, 913-303-7428. This is a two-way street. The way this works best, we want to take your questions. We want to be able to throw at our panel some of the things that you're struggling with, that you're wondering about. So I just want to put that up one more time so that you know exactly how you can get those questions to us. Okay, all right, let's jump in. So Mark Gordon. First and foremost, Mark, longtime broadcaster and a longtime friend. Mark's been involved with radio and television as a broadcaster. He retired almost 3 years ago as president and CEO of the Missouri Broadcasters Association. The thing I would say about Mark, we've leaned on Mark for his expertise, his guidance in helping us with P1 Learning, Swagger Institute, and our collaborative effort here, the 10-Minute Trainer Network. Mark's the best. He's a mentor. He's a trainer. And he's a big sounding board for all of us. So before I throw it to Mark, I thought it might be a good idea. It might be beneficial and I thought this was better served if I threw this to you. So you're welcome here. If you could explain the rules and guidelines from the FCC regarding underwriting messaging. Let's start there. And Mark, thanks for doing this. Thanks for joining us. And I'm going to turn it over to you.
Absolutely. Thank you, Darren. First off, before we get started, I want to reach out and say hi to all my broadcast association colleagues. I miss you guys. All right. So thank you for the support of this program. So the FCC framework for underwriting messages. Here we go. It's in section 399B of the Communications Act regarding underwriting messaging. Stations may include sponsor or business identification, factual value neutral descriptions of goods or services, sponsor's address, phone number, or website for identification only, logos or slogans used purely for identification. Stations may not include calls to action, like visit us today or call now. They cannot include pricing or promotional language, discount or lowest rates. Comparative or qualitative claims like best or award winning, and they cannot have endorsements or inducements to purchase. In short, an underwriting message should identify and inform, not persuade. All right, so let's get started. We reviewed the FCC language. Whether we agree with the rules is not up for discussion. Again, this is about strategy, not politics. So the first question for our panel, in terms of messaging, what have you found that has worked for you? What are your challenges? What are your concerns? And we don't have to go in any particular order, but I'm gonna throw it to Greg first. You're muted, Greg.
Hey, Greg, you're muted.
Oh, thanks. Welcome to 2025, where we still can't unmute when we're on a panel. Thanks for inviting me to the panel. You already set this up a little bit with the restrictions and the guidelines, but I don't think we've ever felt like they were really restrictive. We just lean into it. I mean, it's a selling point for us that the messages there's less verbs, there's less confusion, there's not all this clutter. Like we lean into it's the audience and identifying yourself in position with. So we don't usually have a lot of struggle talking people out of things that they really want to put in because they're looking to us to tell them what sort of messaging makes sense to our audience. If somebody really wants to talk about different things that would be too big for a spot, we might encourage them to do more than one version of the spot. Let's do one spot where we talk about your car lineup, and let's do a different spot where we talk about your service department or something, split those out so that you're not trying to jam too much in the spot. But I think what works the best is just talking to the client and trying to understand what it is they're trying to do, and then getting them to trust us that we know the best places to put these spots and how to craft them. And, the relationship is what always wins out.
Good. Other folks on the panel want to comment about that?
Yeah, I would tend to agree exactly what Greg said. I think it's kind of our job to kind of, tell people how to use our products. We do have a different product, and don't get too caught up on the menu of the listing. If it's something that actually is necessary, it's when we try to recommend, why don't you use maybe using our digital, maybe using another way to kind of make people go into multiple places to see the messaging. Because I think, and that's why, the value of sending people to the website, because I think with our audience being a unique audience, I think you don't have to hyperbolize everything to get their attention. So we just kind of focus on the quality of our audience and the quality of consistent messaging that's not anywhere else.
Okay. Jackie, you're in the non-com world, but you're not in the public broadcast world. So what's your thoughts?
Yeah, well, good answers, Greg and James. And just to piggyback a little bit on their answers, absolutely, consistency and frequency is still incredibly important. Our listeners tend to listen a little bit longer, or at least we think, and trust us. So the messaging over and over is still really important. And then helping your customer with making sure that their website is clear and not confusing, because our goal is always to direct that listener to them, to their website.
Okay. Any other thoughts or comments? All right. So the next area I want to talk about is understanding audience value. When you approach potential underwriters, how do you present your station as an alternative to other marketing options? And I'd like for everyone on the panel to weigh in on this one. Gina?
Yeah, I really set up our listeners and our viewers with our clients and just aligning our clients to the integrity of our brands, kind of backing into the last question. And from there, just honing in on the quality, talking about how Kansas Cityans love to experience new things, go places, and really have that trust for what we're doing, what we're saying on air. And so it's just a high quality audience of people who we also believe are listening longer than on a commercial station. And we sell that, and we really just talk about just the unique audience we have, and that you won't find elsewhere.
Okay. John?
Yeah, sorry about the lack of camera, but it really doing you all a favor, I think, actually, is what that's all about. The thing that I really believe when it comes to talking to a client and maybe even getting them to work with us in the first place is that, we live in a fragmented world where numbers don't really work for much of anybody. Even the big players complain about not having enough traction to deliver things. We've seen what's happened even with the big video streaming giants. And so in a world where numbers really don't work for very many people, and by the way, our Christian broadcasters might be an exception to this rule, but with the numbers being lower, there's still going to be content, there's still going to be marketing. And so if numbers don't work, the thing that really matters is relationships. And so just knowing that that you're going to be there for them, whether you are winning or losing in terms of fulfilling the client's desires, just to constantly be there and be supportive and have quick responses to things. I think the thing that is maybe the most challenging is when you get somebody who's really well schooled in the commercial world and wants to do things that are promotional, wants to do things that are personal, wants to have call to action and all of those things. And if you try to really just do it on their terms, it can be done, but the language can get to be pretty tortured. And I think that one of the messages that is really important to get across to a lot of underwriters is that when you adhere to these rules, you're actually doing yourself a favor, because the things that are often viewed as being a positive on the commercial side are also the reasons why people are diving for that button to change stations. Commercial avoidance is a real thing, and when you talk about these messages, the best messages are the ones that actually don't even feel like advertising, the ones that feel more helpful, the ones that feel more culturally aligned. And so the more that you can do that, the less tune out you have and the better work you do for the client.
We're getting some questions, and those are going to be Darren and Speed are going to moderate those when we're finished with our panel.
Yes.
Probably
Hey, Mark, I was just going to jump in real quick and just say, we do have questions coming. Keep them coming. And we're Mark, you keep rolling, and we'll come at the end and we'll start really digging in with the panel on these questions.
Sounds great. Jackie, I wouldn't mind you touching base on that last question we just asked about the approach to potential underwriters, how you present your stations as alternatives to the other marketing options.
Well, we kind of have the benefit of linking arms with those potential partners and seeking out the partners that believe in what we're doing. So that's usually the beginning of the narrative. And then just educating them on who that listener is and that trust that we've built. And I would often say, you know, your grandma can listen to the station.
Mhm.
Your littles can listen to the station. So good, clean family fun.
There you go. Okay. All right. Anyone else want to comment on that before we go to our next topic?
I just say mega dittos to what John said earlier. I mean, I think it's that they're not just buying the audience, they're buying the affiliation with us. Whether they want to buy it or not, the audience assumes an affiliation and a partnership when they hear underwriting messages. And that's generally different than when you hear a commercial on a commercial radio station. We can both reach an audience, but the implied endorsement or partnership between us and the underwriter is a big part of the transaction.
Okay, thanks.
To kind of further that, they were talking, I think it's what, 68% of listeners buy from people who support public radio or public media. So there's a high, the audience itself identifies with those people being different and understanding they're supporting something special. So it helps a lot. And, you know, what we see is the usual thing we would expect with our audience being a little bit, you know, just across the board. But it's one of those factors that always kind of stands out. It's the high amount of loyalty we have with our audience, you know, to people's sports.
If I could jump, I'm curious on this because I love that fact. Is this something that when we're talking to potential underwriters, are we communicating that? The fact that, look, there's another level to this, that there is that people do respond. I mean, I know you can't answer for virtually all public broadcasts, but I'm just curious.
Well, there's a bunch of data from PBS and NPR on this, and it's part of our kits to say, you know, they're 250 times more likely to drive a Subaru, and they're, you know, 175 times more likely to go to a movie or whatever. We have that data, and it's a big part of the pitch.
Okay.
All right, so we're gonna go to the next area we want to discuss, and I want you to be thinking for a moment about examples of creative. Okay, and you don't need to share the client name if you're uncomfortable with that. The business category will be fine. Can you share an example of how you use storytelling or a tone, alignment to make underwriting messages effective within the FCC rules? We'd love to hear an example of that if you've got that off the top of your head. So, John, maybe start with you.
You know, I'm
Sorry about that.
Yeah, no. You know, it's you know, I don't know that I ever really, you know, it's something that I probably should develop more. What I really just start with is the client's story and then just try and adjust to make it compliant. So it's just sort of a different animal. I think that one of the things that when I'm looking for taking their story and translating it into something that's compliant, you know, I think a lot of times it's just a change in focus from taking the you need to do this to the client offers this. So if you just take the perspective shift away from the client to away from the listener to the client, then I think that you're pretty much golden. And then just use the business itself, their story.
Gina?
Yeah, I think John, what he was saying really reflects my feelings as well. I mean, we get creative with lots of different partners. When I think about storytelling and the things we do, I think about some of our more annual partnerships that are around what we call internally stunt days, but we're really just themed days where we're partnering with an organization. For example, like our local organ procurement organization, Midwest Transplant Network. And so they're a nonprofit, and we are telling stories of local Kansas Cityans whose lives have been impacted through organ eye tissue donation. And it's really it's a good funding piece for us. It's a feel good, it's doing good, it's educating our community, and the community rallies behind us. And so it's really letting those voices be heard and those stories being told. And it's kind of easy and safe at the same time because they are a nonprofit partner. And it's a way to be creative and to also kind of garner up that emotion that is so important to radio. And so that is just an example of a partnership that we've done for the last 8 years in Kansas City. And it's been super creative, and it shifts every year, and just a beloved partnership here that I find that other stations haven't really touched yet or got into that space.
Excellent. Excellent. Okay. Jackie.
I'm slow on the draw. Sorry about that.
That's okay.
No, that's really good. And Gina pointed out working with nonprofits. I mean, that really is fun because you do have more freedom in your language. Anytime I approach copy, I'm always thinking, how do I connect the head with the heart? And if you can get there, you come out with pretty good stuff. Sometimes we got a little too good.
Mm-hmm.
With some of the theater of the mind that you have to be a little more careful about with some of the commercial folk than you do with the nonprofits.
Okay. Okay. Anyone else?
Just
All
add
right.
in that we do testimonials with some of our sponsors as well. So as part of the package, where they're not allowed to talk about their product, but they're allowed to introduce themselves and talk about why they think it's important to support us. And so it's a creative way to kind of to make the emotional connection with them and their place in the community while still staying in with the guideline of not selling their product or being overtly promotional. And it gives different ways to reach different people, more frequency, everything else. So.
All right. Okay, let's go to our next area of discussion, community resilience. All right, and since Congress eliminated funding to public broadcasting, I have personally seen an increase in funding requests from my local NPR and PBS stations. I have responded, as I'm sure many have, to increase their support. Is it fair to say funding from your audience and business communities has increased? If so, what plans are you making to keep and expand on that momentum? So this is particularly focused on the public side of things. James?
Well, we just had one of our biggest fund drives ever. We had $1 million fund drive. We achieved that a few weeks ago. So kind of what we've been doing is kind of a multi-pronged approach of having more ways to be involved with us. So what we looked at from underwriting, instead of just the spots, what else can we do? What other kind of segments can we make? How can we tie you in? We do have this thing we call our business memberships, which is kind of a hybrid of regular underwriting and just mentions on the air. And with that, we've tied in a segment where you get spots that you can use as pass-off credits to involve other nonprofits. So it helps us get to businesses, a lot of businesses that may not be your quote-unquote traditional people looking for regular ways to, like architects and things like that. They may not have necessarily a marketing need, but they do want to support you. And they, doing good is good business. So they can be a part of some other business that's important to them. So we've got a couple of projects working like that right now. So far, since we started this with our business memberships, we've raised $30,000 in the past month, just kind of getting that expansion into that area.
Have you been surprised or were you expecting increased support as a result of the changes in Washington?
Yeah, we going back to when this first happened, rescission happened in July, we had a mini fund drive and we had a target of $500,000. We did that within 48 hours. So the community has been very responsive. So with that, we're just trying to, like I said, make it easier to work with us. More options that you can be involved with anyways from the business side. What can we do from a commercial standpoint? Then we're doing other things with other events and other stuff for donor activities, just to get people more engaged with us at a higher level.
James, how did you promote those fund drives? So you got that together within 48 hours. You would really put that together. How did you get that message out there? How did you get that to your viewers and listeners?
Well, we all knew something was going to happen with rescission, so we've been working on this, waiting for what financial. So we had like multiple versions. If this happens, we do this. If this doesn't happen, we do this. So we were kind of prepared. So what we thought was going to take a week took 48 hours. So we just, normal things on air, normal, hey, this is happening. This is how it could impact your radio. We talked about what we're losing, how it will affect public media. And we just had an on-air fund drive, and it like I said, moved quickly.
Okay. Greg, what about you?
Yeah, I think we're seeing more increase in the personal donation side than the corporate side, but I do think we have the attention of the corporate side now. It's almost like an immediate gold hall pass to get back in the door with people who may have said, well, we didn't really have money for that in the budget, but we know something's happened with you guys. Let's talk. And so you can use that to get back in the door and maybe pitch something different this time. And I think where we're really seeing a lot of traction is in engagement activities and sponsorship of the activities. They can always buy our audience and they know the price and they know the rate card. And if it fits their model, then they're in. But we're seeing, especially with younger audiences, this desire to participate in our activities, and then sponsors to sponsor those events where they get to reach that audience who is participating in the activity. So awareness of the funding cuts has helped all across the board because everybody's aware. It's up to us to find the places to stick a foot in the door, pry something open, make a new pitch, try something innovative. And I think it is slowly working, and I think it's going to help us with retention too, where people who might say, well, we weren't sure if we were going to stay or we weren't sure if we were going to buy more, but we know you guys are having trouble right now, so we'll do this. I think it's helping, just not as much on the corporate side as on the personal philanthropy side.
Gina?
Yeah, I really agree with what Greg just said. Definitely, our individual donors and our membership drives have been, wildly successful. I love the fact that our stations, TV and radio, didn't jump right into it and say, "Oh my gosh, we're on fire." And we've really taken a slow, steady approach in fundraising because we think this money may never be here again, and in our pockets to support what we're doing. And so we want to make sure that we're fundraising in a way that is more sustainable for our partners and for our donors. And on the corporate partnership side, I would say that I am really leaning into partners who maybe I haven't tried to get an increase on. And I am leaning into it, sharing some messaging, and like James and Greg were both saying, going back after ones that had lapsed, and maybe I thought they loved us, and maybe they just had taken a step back. So yeah, definitely a lot of buzz and hype and excitement to come back and be part of what we're doing here.
Okay. Thank you all. Last area I want to touch on before we turn it over to Darren Speed for the Q&A is internal challenges. As you determine underwriting message content, have you experienced challenges within your organizations as to the direction and the substance of any of your messaging? Is there confusion sometimes as to the difference between a branding message and a call to action message? And I think I'd like to start with the production manager on the call, Jon Hart, to talk about that.
We're actually pretty unified. I think that the one thing where we've had some push back and forth between upper management and like it's not a fight, but what do we do about marijuana and dispensaries, because it has been legalized in Missouri, but it's still illegal at a federal level. And any FCC lawyer will tell you to stay away from it. But on the commercial side, people are doing that hand over fist. And those dispensaries are spending a ton of money. So it's not anything that we're in disagreement about, but we're all watching it very carefully and seeing how it develops, because it's just an enormous category. We've seen, if you want to talk about creativity and also just how anxious these people are to get into the space. We have one thing that we're doing with an underwriter. There is a dispensary in town that has wanted to work with us and wanted us to work with us. And so they've actually set up a separate sort of shell business called Blue Sage Deli. And so we don't mention the actual dispensary name, but our concert reviews, which we occasionally mention on the air, are sponsored by Blue Sage Deli. And then when you go to bluesagedeli.com, then that website is redirected to the dispensary website. And so the lawyers seem to be comfortable with that. It's one more thing about this process that I'm not sure I understand, but it's like it's one small toe in. But that's probably the biggest. I will say that I've seen just tons of differences in the interpretation of the rules from station to station as I've worked with different people in different organizations. So I don't think that there's this, systemic agreement about what's legal on a lot of these things, but at least internally, we've all sort of settled on our rules and don't have huge disagreements.
Jackie, I'm sure you're not dancing that dance, but with the
with the blue sage
no blue
jelly.
sage jelly, yeah.
No, but I wrote it down. Interesting. As our legal departments grow, the fear gets bigger. That's what I've seen. So it's typically the attorneys that are the most nervous about it because the FCC being so gray, they're just not comfortable with. So yeah, I mean, we definitely have had some pretty significant internal discussions and struggles, so much so that departments may shut down for a while, or they may just decide, no, we're not going to mess with underwriting at all. That was the original question, wasn't it? Did
yes,
I?
yes.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
Making sure I didn't deter
Yeah.
from that.
Yeah. Okay. Anyone else want to comment on the internal challenges? All right, I'm gonna turn this thing back to Derron and Speed. It's guys.
Yeah, Speed. I bet you and I are thinking a similar thing. It was a great discussion, and B, we got a lot of questions that have rolled in.
We do.
That I think we would just like to jump in with. But this discussion's great. As you can see, Brian's put that back up. Text us, send it to the chat, get us these questions. Brian and Jen are feeding these to Speed and I. So let me jump in. I'm just going to go in order that these came in, and I'll read it the way the question came in, and then we'll go. So for the language, do you make it consistent across all platforms? For example, do you use the same language restrictions for on-air and streaming as you do for digital, or maybe promotional mentions? Anybody want to jump in? Gina?
I'll jump in on that one.
Okay, James, go. Yep.
Yeah, we make slight adjustments for podcasts and things like that. Nothing too extreme. We're not going to have pricing on it, and we're not going to have comparative language, but we are going to be a little bit more lenient because of the environment. Because at the end of the day, we don't want to be so far from what we do it turns off our normal listener. So slight changes, nothing too dramatic, but we might let a family friendly thing stay in, where we might not have that on air. Yeah. But and I've got the fortune of having a staff here that's been in public media for 20 years looking at that. So, like I said, we're just a little bit more lenient in that area, but we're pretty conservative. Don't go too far.
No, thank you. John, did you have a comment?
Yeah, I was going to say that one of the things that, I'm really kind of a little uncomfortable with giving nonprofits, benefit of some of the easing of rules, because I just think that we even try at a certain level to keep our station promotions within the guidelines for a commercial underwriter, because we don't want to have a commercial underwriter who's been told they can't do something to hear a not-for-profit or the station itself doing those things. So while that's not a hard and fast rule, we do try to keep it consistent just so that everybody feels like they've got an even playing field. Now, on the online side, whether that's website or e-blast, we do make some exceptions, particularly, for instance, if we're working with a concert promoter and they want to do a 2-for-1 special, we will not do that on the air, obviously, but that's a listener benefit. So we will add that to our website or e-blast or whatever, although we don't do that on a really super consistent, it's not a normal thing that happens a lot.
No, that's very good. Anybody else, anything to share on that particular question? Let me jump to the next one, because we've got several. Could the panel share some strategies for speaking to potential underwriters about the difference between advertising and underwriting? Gina?
I can speak about that a little bit. You know, I come up against that often, and I work with a lot of ad agencies, and they are looking for impressions and numbers, and it can be a challenge, but it's kind of leaning back into our quality audience and that halo effect that clients get by being on the air with us, whether that's TV, radio, and just that association. I tend to find that if somebody is really, really focused and thinking about advertising most, and it's the forefront thought, that sometimes it's not going to be that successful of a relationship. I will still work with them, but I really try to dial it back and make sure that you know they understand that our listeners are tuning in for other reasons and connected for those reasons. So it's takes time and nuancing, and I would say sometimes the bigger the fish and the bigger the company, the more challenging it can be. And I think that's why James mentioned this business partnership, and ideas like that are super solid to think about shifting towards a different way to support the station that is still support, but isn't so much tracking in that whole advertising space.
Jackie, Greg, any thoughts there?
I think that just increases your value that much more because your listener is going to be more apt to act and to stay longer, to stay through an underwriting moment.
Greg, Greg, I tell you what, let me throw this next question at you, and you kind of kick us off here. Will you touch on how the rules differ for underwriters who are nonprofit entities like churches?
Yeah, I think Jon touched on a little bit of that, and I agree with the way he handles that. For a nonprofit, you can say more in the spot. You can have a call to action and be promotional because they're nonprofit. But as Jon said, and we follow it, we do not do that. We treat nonprofits and for-profits the same for the two reasons that he touched on. One, we don't want to confuse the audience. You know, well, how come they got to say pricing and come on down and all those things, but you're telling this other group that we're not allowed to do it? The audience doesn't know the difference, who's a nonprofit and who's a for-profit. And we don't want our salespeople having to explain that to a client as well. It comes up particularly in cases like healthcare. You have a lot of nonprofit hospitals, you have some for-profit hospitals. They sell the exact service. The audience expects the same thing from them, but one of them would be allowed to do things that the other one isn't in a spot. It's not worth it, so we treat them the same. Credit union versus a bank. A commercial bank can't say things a credit union can. We just don't think it's worth it to differ. And we don't really get much pushback from the client either. They don't know that rule, and they're not making the argument, and that we convince them or try to convince them that they want us to be consistent and have this uniformity in the sound, because that's what attracts the audience. And if we start running more commercial spots because they're legal, we're going to harm the audience, and it might not work for them either. So even though the rule is there, we try not to really bend that rule.
Any other thoughts on nonprofits, churches, whatnot? Okay.
Hey, Darren, I had one that came through on a text, and it was addressed to an extent, but it did come up. So, and that is on an internal mindset, I guess is the best way to look at this. It says, inside your buildings, how do they really view underwriting? Is it treated like a part of your mission, or is it just a line item that you have to have out there to hit budget? And how does leadership support? Is it coming from all sides, or are there some folks who said, I want it to be more pure than that? Does that make some sense?
I'll talk to that because we had this discussion, especially when the FCC had all the questions. And one of the challenges we had is you'd be surprised how many people in the building don't know what underwriting is. I mean, They really don't know what you do, everything else. So we started this, we'll call it under the hood. So basically, in a staff meeting, kind of told people here's what we do and here's how it impacts you, because everybody was asking questions about spots and everything else. We kind of walked through with the team, news people and all. Here's the things that are troublesome for underwriting. Here are the things that we try to do. Here are things that we don't do. Here is how much we contribute to this budget every year. And, and that it really opened up a lot of people's eyes, because after that, I had a lot of people who had been in public media in this building for years who never quite understood what we do. Because there are people, to your point, who think, oh, how dare you exploit our product? But that kind of cleaned it up for a lot of people. And it really started a whole nother dialogue between, like our news department specifically, who they didn't get it, a lot of folks. So that's what we did.
Anyone else there?
Yeah. Anybody else want to weigh in on that?
As you can see, we're getting a lot of really good questions. Here's a comment, I think, and if anyone wants to comment on this, this came in that said, I write sample compliance scripts based on the prospect's website verbiage, using phrasing like "we can use as much as possible." More comment than a question. Any thoughts there for anyone?
An easy way to get things done.
Yeah.
And, it's like, there are lots of times when, I would really like to know what the client wants to achieve, but I really don't like the client to come in and try and write their own copy, because it is almost always just a minefield of problems. So going to the website, and then, if that's what they want, if you can find something that's applicable to what they're trying to achieve, and then adjusting that in your own way using, compliant, friendly language, I think is a beautiful way to get things done quickly.
Here's a question.
John, one of the things that, I'm a listener, and I've known you for a number of years. I've always looked at you as kind of a master at writing the concert spot. Obviously, you've got a AAA radio station. You have artists that most of the commercial broadcasters are not playing, that are still coming in on tour. Can you kind of let people, give them a little bit of, there is no call to action, but how do you kind of go about that? How do you address that?
Well, basically it's just a client, the promoter, and you're allowed to talk about the product that they offer, and the product is the show. We do use music in the spots, so it does sound like a concert spot. But the funny thing is that I really, truly believe that our audience listens to those concert spots and believes them to be fictional, and they don't think of them as commercials. It's just because they want to know who's coming to town, and they and by using the music hooks, it really is educational, because how many times have you heard a song is like, I know that, but who is that by? And so when you mention the band and then connect it to the music, it's like the light bulb goes on. So we do over $100,000 a year in concert underwriting at this point, and work closely with them. And it's kind of a thing where, I don't personally believe in writing a lot of proposals. I like to just go in and create relationships, tell people what we're going to do, and make it more friendly and more relationship based than business based. But in the concert world, where you have the promoter, the concert, you have the promoter, the artist management, you have sometimes record labels involved, you have to have a proposal. So we just do a boilerplate proposal and adjust it to the specifics of an individual show, fire it off quickly so that when they need the proposal to forward on, they have it. And we just try and make it just as simple and streamlined and as normalized a process as possible. And we do a tremendous amount of it, actually.
Good information. I bet we're gonna have some follow-up on what you just said there, John, on the concerts. So respectful of everyone's time, we're gonna take this up to the top of the hour. So I'm gonna bullet point some questions. Our panelists, you want to participate? Just turn your mic on and let's roll. So first question, and we'll kind of roll through these. Very straightforward. Can we use words like XYZ business is proud to be a part of your station, this event, whatever? Can we use words like XYZ business, the name of the business is proud to support you or be a part of you? If I'm understanding the question correctly. Anyone?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Every spot.
We're all calling your attorneys.
I know. I'll be the first to go.
We would probably have more problem if they wanted to say they weren't proud.
Okay. Okay. Gina, thoughts?
Yeah, no, it felt like a trick question a bit because we tag
Yeah.
every spot with that. And yeah, it's just another way to associate with us. And
Okay, next question. Does anyone anticipate that public radio and television stations will lobby the FCC for less restrictive underwriting rules now that contractual support has ended?
That's kind of that political thing.
I know. As I was reading it, I was like, okay, any thoughts?
I would say that some of our staff right off the bat thought, oh gosh, we can be a little more willy-nilly with what we're doing and sponsorship language and underwriting. And we're like, no, we can't. But I do think I'm not sure what I think will or won't happen, but I do know that people's wheels are turning and wondering if there would be a shift.
I don't think anybody will lobby for it. It might end up being a consequence somewhere down the road, but I don't think there's that much more money in it. I don't think it would increase our revenue dramatically, even if we went all the way to commercial, and I think we'd harm the audience trying to get the money.
James, this is specifically for you. Was your on-air drive for individual donations or corporate support or both?
We had the on-air drive for the individual donations, but what we did, we created a couple special events targeting the business community that did something else. One of the things we just did about a month ago, we had this a marketplace talent come in. We had a breakfast kind of saying, here's what's going on in the business community. Here's things you need to know. And we kind of show them, here's ways you can get involved with us. Some were the normal things we do, some other things we set up. And that generated for us a total of like $110,000 just finding and having conversations, because the whole point of that meeting was to get people who weren't your normal, your regular everyday guys. We got and getting decision makers in the room. So it really helped us. So that's aside from whatever the drop is. So that's how we've handled that.
Hey, this is one that maybe we can connect later, but it said someone said would sure like to hear a storytelling style sponsor spot. Jen, we might just connect with our panelists afterwards, and if anyone has an example that you'd be willing to share with us that maybe we could pass along to this person, we would love to connect you there. What about announcements where no money changes hands? That's the question.
We do trade. We typically only trade for things that we would otherwise buy. So we won't trade just because you want to trade. We trade because you have something we want. And usually we try to insist on getting some cash. So maybe 50% cash, 50% trade, but 100% trade we wouldn't typically do.
Okay, so I got two more questions, and then we'll wrap this up. And I'll give everybody a chance. My last question came in. What will you be doing differently in 2026 compared to this year? So I'm buying you some time there. The next to the last question is this. It's always been my understanding that using music by an artist for a concert spot wasn't allowed because it enhanced the message. Has anyone else heard this or got experience with this? John, you want to take that?
Well, I've had people say that they would not do that, but we've never had any kind of serious complaint, and we've been doing it for 25 years. It's you turn on, and I know it's maybe it's I don't know how you split hairs on this, but like if you watch PBS content, they have music underneath their spots. So for me, as I said earlier, it's an educational thing to help our listeners connect the dots. That would be my defense for it.
Yeah, it's funny, John, that you say it, because I would personally say no, that it's promotional. But I think your point is, if it helps the audience identify, oh, I didn't know they sang that song, then you're really helping them. And I could make the same argument. If we did it, I would say it passes legal on the fact that it's identification, not promotion.
Yeah, we've done that for years. CCM, we always have the spot, and we did label packages. So a lot of music, nonprofit and all.
Okay, so final question, and we'll go to each of you for your thoughts on it, and then we'll put a bow on this today. So the final question was this: what will you be doing differently in 26 compared to this year? I'll just go kind of the way you're on my screen. Greg, will you kick that off?
Yeah, I'll be sleeping a lot less in 26 than I did in 25. I think that we'll be leaning harder into relationships and one-on-one. It's going to take more time and effort, but as we said, with people paying attention to us now, we're going to have more conversations. And so a little more customized on the package, a little more thought on what we do, because if we can get people to see the value and get in, we have a chance to keep them. But if we keep doing the same thing we were doing before, we're not going to build the business base. This is a window to build some base that we can keep going. So it's going to be higher touch in 26.
Dana?
I am going to be really more hyper-focused on selling a sponsored content e-blast, which is something that we have not done in the past. I've seen many stations do it. I know there's a lot of success. We have another station here in the city that is wildly successful with theirs. So we are looking at our TV highlights e-blast that we send out every Monday morning, and that quality audience that we already know is reading and opening, and we are going to really get that out to start with the businesses I already work with and see what their interest is. I think it will be wildly successful. It will be a little more organic on the radio side because that e-blast is not as structured. But yeah, I'm excited about it. I think there's a lot of opportunity and a lot of dollars we've not been getting.
Thank you. John, thoughts?
I plan on being more annoying in 2026. And really annoying internally, because I think that it's like just preaching the gospel of relationships, and specifically two relationships, three relationships with donors, with underwriters, and with the consumers, because there's no part of this that works if we make ourselves the most important part of the equation. So I do really intend to be as annoying as possible.
Good luck on that. James.
I got it.
James.
Nailed it.
Well, we're taking an approach, first of all, who are we not talking to? I mean, it's just kind of those kind of sales 101. I think a lot of what we spent time on as an industry has been focused on nonprofits, which is a big part of who we are and what we do. But how well are we relating to the business community? Are we meeting their needs? Back to the storytelling and other things. Have we really? That's been one of those places we kind of like, yeah, we'll get back to it. Now's the time to get back to it. So just making sure, back to like e-blast, we started those as well recently, just getting people into, do we have the right product line to really meet the need, and just kind of evolving what we do and who we're talking to, basically. And relationships always matter, so we know that is a fact.
We'll get Jackie's thoughts here, then we'll throw it to you. Jackie?
Yeah, I'll be quick. Helping our stations with sponsorships that don't go on air, more of their event sponsorships, as well as podcasting, really utilizing those platforms more in our space.
Pete, I got to tell you, I hope everybody else has. I've enjoyed the heck out of this. So the information has been wonderful. Your thoughts on as we wrap this up?
Yeah, it's interesting because there's a couple of things I wrote down immediately, but one of the things we teach through P1 Learning is the branding process. And we always start out by saying, look, branding is not, rocket science, or magic, that it really kind of comes down to, it's a recipe for base ingredients, and that is to reach the right folks. The second is frequency, to deliver the message enough times in a really crowded world that becomes more crowded every dang day. You've got to deliver the message enough times to cut through the clutter and grab the attention. So it's reach, it's frequency, and then it's consistency. We can't be all things to all people. And if we try, we end up being nothing to anybody. Own your niche. Understand what it is you do better than anybody else. A AAA radio station talking to folks that like AAA music, how could you go wrong, right? So reach, frequency, consistency, and then of course the messaging itself. Something we preach is it's not the stuff we sell. It can't be a laundry list of our products and services. I mean, that's inventory. All you need is a SKU number. It's the stories that we tell. And Jackie, I wrote this down, the connecting that head to heart. That's what you folks do. We're passionate about your product. Where else will I write the cheapest guy I know a check because I don't want to lose you? That's a passion that's hard to explain. So we need you. Thank you. And whatever we can do to help support you, we appreciate it. Darren?
Well, and with speed, we just got we're getting a lot of comments here. Laura just said, will you all please do more of these? So our goal will be to try to offer.
You guys do it this afternoon.
Yeah,
No.
can y'all stick around? We'll do another one. I would leave you with this today. I wrote down some words that kept coming up: connection, relationship, unique audience, trust, consistency, frequency, creative. I kept writing those words down. John said, we find out about the client story and then we make it compliant versus the other one. I love that. James said, doing good is good business. Perfect. Gina, I think it was you that said, we're reconnecting with those who have lapsed. You have a message right now to reconnect with these people that maybe you've lost sight of. And then finally, I would end with this. My wife spent her entire career raising money for a university and collegiate fundraising and philanthropy. And I always remember her saying this. She said, I found out if I asked them for money, they would give me their advice and their opinion. But if I asked for their advice and their help and their opinion, then ultimately they would give me their money. So I think that's a good thought as we go forth today. Ask for their advice, ask for their help, find out what you can do to help tell their story, then worry about the compliance, and ultimately the money will follow. Listen to our panel. Thank you so much. You guys have been great. We're going to lean on you again. Based on the feedback we've gotten, the response, this was needed. Glad we could provide it. And Speed, I think it's been wonderful.
Absolutely agreed. Thank you all for participating. We really do appreciate it. And thank for you for giving us your time today out there watching. And hopefully we gave you some good stuff that we could grab your hands around and put to work for 2026. So that being said, put your customer first.
I was wondering where you were going. And always find your swagger.
Well, there we go. All right.
Appreciate you. So
thank you so much for everybody joining us today. Thanks to our panelists. Thanks for Speed and Darren for leading this thing. If you're new to 10-Minute Trainer Network, we do these live events much shorter than an hour. This was a really special event, and thanks for all those folks throughout NASBA and
Brian,
the State Broadcaster Association. So,
Brian, Barbara just shared even old dogs can learn new stuff. So I think that's all of us. When we hear from experts in the field, it helps us. So good stuff. Appreciate you all.
Yeah, no, very much appreciate everybody. Hey, big reminder, if you are watching this live, yes, we are recording this. Yes, you can get a copy. Please, as long as you register for this event, we'll be sending this out to you as well. But again, thanks so much for watching. We hope you have a wonderful rest of your week and a wonderful weekend. So with that being said, thanks for tuning in to the 10-Minute Trainer Network.
Swagger on, y'all.